Hello right bags, it's Jade, welcome to Stranded Deep little guide. Because it's now on the PlayStation Plus, I thought I'd do a brand new video showcasing what it is about the game, what you need to know, and then giving you the first few tips to survive the first day or so. Stranded Deep is a single player game. On PC they have couch co-op, and we're hoping that will eventually get added to console, but don't expect it anytime soon. The updates for both versions of the game on PC and console have been relatively slow. It's technically not finished yet on PC, where it's still in early access, but looking likely they're going to finish that this year. It has got an ending though, it's more satisfactory for others than not, so definitely go and check it through. There's boss fights, you'll be exploring, fighting off sharks and doing a lot of swimming. I was super hyped for Stranded Deep. I gave everyone the news about it coming to console and the drama and the sagas behind it, and if you need tutorials, go and check out the rest of them. I have to say Stranded Deep is a little bit rough around the edges and its age is kind of creeping up. It first got started I think in like 2015. But if you're a survival fan, absolutely give it a shot. So I'm just going to rattle off a few stuff rather than show it too much, but you can customise your own map. Now the map is made out of separate tiles and you can edit individual islands to replace the tiles that are already here. You'll notice some of these have got red backgrounds, 3 of them are going to be the boss fights, 1 of them will be the exit point, and the other red square is the island that you're on. You can literally customise any of the islands and really make it a bit easier or a bit harder. And you can literally change the terrain, you can put different items on it, different trees, different rocks, animal spawns and shipwrecks. You can increase the size of the island as well, and you can increase the height of it. It is a pretty cool feature. There is a limit to how many items you can have, so be careful when you're placing stuff, and always make sure you click apply. Now trees are really important, but some trees are more useful than others, particularly palm trees. There are some trees that you can't harvest. So always make sure you've got a good amount of palm trees on any of your islands that you're creating. It's a cool little feature doing this. You don't need to worry too much though. Go ahead, try the game, and if you are finding it a bit difficult, come back to this and then just add a new island with more resources on it. Now, if a cheaty island doesn't sound like it's your kind of game, well, you can go ahead and make the game even harder. You're going to need food and water much more regularly. If you get poisoned, it will be much more deadly, and it takes longer to get your skills up. You can also change male and female, and you can either choose to have a brand new world or the one that you've just created using the world editor. And if you really want the hardcore experience and you make the game really super tough, you can have permadeath on. Stranded Deep really is a tough game, not because you get eaten by millions of creatures, although the sharks are deadly, but more to do with poisons and running out of food and water. So the game starts off in a luxurious private jet, but as you might guess, something's about to go wrong. Now straight away you can't mess around, you've got to swim outside of the wreckage. Don't try and collect or gather anything, there is nothing to gather at this stage. You've just simply got to get to the ocean's surface. And there we go, swim over to the lifebuoy. And once you're awake you'll find yourself in your little raft, and obviously you can see lots of islands in the distance, as well as the island that you're going to be calling home. So straight away your life raft is going to be used a lot in the early stages, so don't let it drift away. Make sure you take it with you. You can pick up the paddle and you can start actually swimming. Hold the square button to operate and then you can start going in the direction you want. You just use the left stick to aim. Now be careful, once you come to some rocks you are going to have to just get out, and to do so you need to aim at the paddle or the raft and hold the square button again. Now we can go ahead and we can grab our raft and pick it up with us. Press the L2 button and you'll be able to drag it. You can also throw it as well. If you press L2 and then R2, you'll lob whatever you've got in your hand. And there we go. That should be safe there. The waves shouldn't necessarily jump over. Now there is a nice little tutorial. I would advise to follow it obviously, but I've played this game a hell of a lot, so I'm probably going to turn it off. So this is your island, this is your survival game. If you press the triangle button, it'll bring up your pretty much statuses. You've got your health, your food, your water and your SPF. You can get sunburn being out in the sun. There's two ways to keep the SPF down. You can make your own tropical sunscreen using coconut and an aloe vera plant, or you can actually dive into the water for a little while. You'll notice that your SPF will start to fill back up and you won't be getting burnt. Just be careful you don't run out of oxygen. You can see the oxygen meter down there is going low. You do need to be fully under the water for it to fill up. While we're here, it's important to note that there are dangers even on the first island. Normally it's pretty safe, you won't find too many animals, but what you will find is these guys scattered around. These will injure you, so be very careful, you don't want to get poisoned by some of them. If you get poisoned on the first island, chances are you may die. Let's go around and pick up every single little stick. As you would imagine, like most survival games, it relies on you gathering as many of these resources as possible. Crabs are here, you can go ahead and smack one with your paddle, and you can see that wasn't too bad. We'll be able to cook ourselves a little meal in a second. Now palm fronds are really important. You're going to need lots of these, but you're also going to need a knife to cut them. If you're finding you're not gathering any resources, then make sure you've got actually the right equipment or tool. The best thing to do is to run around and just grab as many of the resources that are easily pickable. You'll find cloth, you'll find corrugated iron, as well as wooden planks and a whole host of other natural resources. If you're super lucky, you may have a shipping container. Now, in the past, I didn't realise that you could actually dismantle that shipping container later on when you've got the right tool, and you can technically use it as a part of base pieces. Or even use it as a shelter as it is. There is a doorway on one side which you can enter, but you generally won't find any resources inside of these. They're purely there just to break down for base building later on. Aloe vera is what you're going to be using to make your sunscreen, but for that you're also going to need coconuts. But as I said, for now, just keep gathering all the other little bits you can straight away. Once you've done a little sweep of the island, then we're going to start actually making maybe some tools and weapons. So to craft, you need to press the R1 button, and there you've got your crafting tools. So to make a simple knife or knife blade, we just need one rock. So I'm going to go ahead and craft that, open it up again, and now you can see we've got loads of lashings. What we really want to get hold of is a knife. If you want a quick craft, hold the R1 button and you can craft anything that's appearing in that quick dial. To access your backpack, press and tap the L1 button and you can see all the items you've got. So we're going to use the radial dial to hold on to my little blade. And now we can actually go and start attacking some of these young palm trees. They'll drop the fibrous leaves and that's what you're going to need to make lashings or rope or twine. It's really important that you get these on the first day. These will grow back, so if you do find yourself on the same island for a few days, you want to harvest these as quickly as possible so they'll grow back quicker. So again, it's always worth making sure that as soon as you've got a blade, you run around and you attack as many of these as you can. There's plenty of palm trees, so you shouldn't run out of wood or coconuts. So don't panic too much about getting rid of some of these young saplings. Sometimes they can be a little bit hidden or hard to see, but it's definitely advisable that you do this. Lashings is literally one of the hardest things to get hold of early on in the game because they can take days to grow back. While it seems like there's plenty on the island, you soon realise that you use up quite a lot when you're making some lashing. Now I haven't got enough room in my inventory. When that happens you have to literally place everything down. I'm going to go ahead and make a bunch of these. All of that fibre I was still only able to make 2 lashings. One thing as well, you'll notice that even if you don't have the items in your inventory, you can actually craft items when you're close by to them. This is a really cool feature. You can see now I can actually make the refined knife even though I don't have the lashings in my hand. Although there are some items that you will need to craft in your inventory, but other items you've got no problem doing so. I'm going to drop my item just to make sure I've got a bit of space, and there you go. I've just literally made my refined knife. To drop an item, just hold the circle button when it's in your hand and you'll drop it. And if you want to drop anything in your inventory, press the L1 button, and there you go. You can go ahead and hold and drop the same button and it'll drop whatever you've got. It's probably best to make just a little pile. Certain things you're not going to need straight away. Nothing ever despawns, it will stay there forever. So now we've got our knife, we can go and actually start looking at some other plants. Now another important one to get hold of on the first day is the yucca plant. Absolutely take these down. I've increased my harvesting skills, we're going to go through some of that as well. Now sometimes it can be hard to see the fibrous plants. Again, just make sure you're peering properly. But yeah, absolutely attack the yucca plant. These take even longer than some of the smaller ones to grow, and they're a really good source of the fibrous plants. So make sure you've looked all around your island. If there are any yuccas, you've gone ahead and you've attacked them and harvested them straight away. Just like that. That was a mother load. So this is where Stranded Deep kind of lets itself down a little bit. Certain things regrow, like the yucca plant and baby palm trees. But if you cut a proper tree down, it won't regrow. Even if you see them baby young saplings, they're not going to actually grow into trees. So in actual fact, anything else you come across, some items won't be harvestable, like these plants here, and certain trees won't even give you any wood. You can't harvest them either. That's the same that applies to plants like the pippy plant and others. You need to actually make grow boxes if you want certain plants to regrow. So that's why it's important that you really get into the farming stage of things and you have maybe built a base just for that. So pretty much if you exhaust all the supplies on one island, like all the trees, you're going to have to go to another island to get more wood. So it's already starting to get a little bit closer to night time, so we might start needing to think about making a campfire. Now you can go through and see all the stuff that you'll be able to craft or make, and you can see your craftsmanship needs to be a certain level. To get that up, you need to make all sorts of little things. If you press the triangle button to take a look at your status effects, then press L1 or R1, you can see your actual stats. Hunting, you'll increase the damage you do when you kill more creatures. Cooking, you need to be nearby a campfire when you're cooking and it increases the skill. Harvesting means you'll actually do more damage to items quicker, and so you get the resources quicker. And then physical pretty much stops you from losing health as much. You'll gain more health the more that your physical is up. So run around, swim and use a hammer to build pieces that will all increase your physical score. And then lastly, you can see we've got the craftsmanship score, and as I said, you'll get that more by just making and crafting all sorts of items. Some items are locked behind higher skills, so you need to craft and make as much as possible early on. For now, just focus on making lots of lashings. And there you go, I've got my craftsmanship back up again. And now I can go ahead and make myself a crude axe. For that though, I am going to need a stone blade, and the crude axe is going to do a much better job of chopping down trees. Might be worth also getting a spear too, but you can go ahead and use the knife or the axe to take some of the crabs down. Now to save your game in Stranded Deep, you do need to build a shelter. So I've got 3 sticks, we need palm fronds and we need 1 more lashing. So let's make that lashing and let's go and get ourselves some palm fronds before the end of the day. Choosing my axe, go up to a palm tree and start chopping it away. And don't worry, the trees don't normally land and kill you like they do in the forest. And when it's landed, go to the top of the tree and aim at the palm bunch. This is how you can get palm leaves. Now don't keep hitting it. As soon as it says pick up the palm bunch, take it over to where you're going to build your campfire instead. Then go ahead and drop it. Now go ahead and hit it, and it makes transporting these over a little bit easier before you break them into the palm fronds you need. Now some items you do need them in your inventory before you can actually craft. There's only certain things you don't need to worry about. So I'm picking up palm fronds, and now I've got my shelter. And this is super important you get one of these up and running. Now, nighttime on the island isn't actually that dangerous. You don't suffer really much from hypothermia, not that I've ever really noticed. And you can go ahead, hold to sleep. You can also save your game, so make sure you do that. And then do it again and sleep. As you don't really want running around in the dark too much. It's why it's so important that you go and harvest all the yucca plants and all the small palm leaves first before you go ahead and sleep, as now you've only got maybe a couple more days before they grow back. Whereas if you hadn't done that straight away, you may have found yourself running out of the vital lashings. So now it's a nice brand new day, you can check our statuses and we can maybe see that we're getting about halfway where we're going to need some food. Water is also one of the most important things. So go ahead and chop a tree up, get lots of extra wood. Again, you could use the trick of taking it with you, saves carrying it all over the place, and then going ahead and dropping it. And we've got ourselves a bunch more sticks. Next up, we're going to get that campfire going. So let's get this close. Now to start a fire, you're going to need some kindling. Go ahead and choose the kindling in your hand. Then you've got to hold it over the campfire, and this is pretty much how you use items in the game. You generally normally have to have them in your hand, especially for campfires. Some items you can craft if they're just laying on the floor, others they do need to be in your inventory. So we're going to hold to light, and then we've got a nice little mini game, left and right, L2, R2, and we have fire! Tom Hanks, eat heart out. Now keep that by, you'll need that to light it up a few times, and now get yourself your crab. Now, if you have picked up some of them crabs, you may be wondering how to actually cook. Well, drop the crab on the floor, pick up a knife, hold the square button to skin, and you'll get the meat from it. Which kind of makes sense, as you probably wouldn't put just a whole crab on a spit like that. Now find the crab meat, and you should be able to attach it to a campfire. Now, this is where you need to stay close. If you can hear the sizzling of that sound, that means your cooking skill will go up once the food is cooked. If you're away from that sound, you may not get the skill attached to it. So do make sure you can hear the sound when you're cooking. It's sometimes best to cook in bulk. Cooked food can spoil, so it's usually worth either keeping food sort of raw, like the whole crab, or you might be able to build a smoker later on, and the food that you get from the smoker never spoils. So it can take quite a bit of a while to get this going, but you will get there eventually. While you're doing this and checking, it might be worth actually crafting as much of other items as you can. In fact, I'm going to do a fire pit and put it around if I can. I might have made my a little bit too close, so be careful with that. And I've got my craftsmanship up another level just by making some pretty basic items. What we're really looking for now is some way to get water, and for that we're going to need a water still. You can see it needs 1 coconut canteen, 1 frond, 1 lashing, 1 tarp and 3 rocks. Now I'm going to pick up my cooked small meat, and I'm going to go ahead and extinguish the fire so we don't have to reload it with lots of wood. And that's generally what you need to do. If it has gone completely down the little white circle, you need to find more sticks to feed it. So you go ahead and eat that crab meat if you want, or go back to your raft, take the rations from it, and go ahead and munch on that if you really want to. I would say keep the rations for as long as possible though, as the last resort. Try and capture lots of fresh food or crab meat or fish, etc., and use that for later, because there will be sections where you're going to have to go long areas, or you might need food where there really isn't any other food growing. The compartment here on your little raft can be useful for carrying a few little items as well from back and forth across some of these, but you are going to upgrade to a raft in the future very quickly. So to get some of the resources, you're going to need to obviously clear up some space. I'm going to leave the rations here for now as I don't really need them. And let's go and see if we can get ourselves a coconut. Now, one fell from the tree that we got earlier, so make sure you pick it up. Take some sticks with us as well. It's starting to rain, so we want to get this done as quickly as we can. Now, don't do anything with that coconut. First off, make sure you make a coconut flask. There you go. And you go ahead and drink from it, and that's how you get some water straight away. You'll only get 1 serving out of it, but now we can go ahead and make our water gatherer. We just need to find some tarp. I keep calling it tarp, I think it's actually cloth. They look very similar, and if we're really lucky, we may find some in some of the wreckages nearby. I would say you normally will always find at least 1 tarp on your starting island, possibly 2. If you don't, you've just been really super unlucky. Maybe swim around and see if there's any wreckages. You kind of don't want to be doing that just yet. You want to be focusing on survival. So let's run back to our encampment quickly, hopefully before the rain stops. So there you go, I've got all the resources now to make my water still. Just put it down anywhere. And you're not done yet though. You're going to need to put palm fronds in it to get it to work. So go and chop another palm tree down. I'm going to aim for a smaller one. Same thing as always, head to the top and hit the palm bunch. Usually 5 hits is enough. And take it back over. Then go ahead, drop it, and then feed it. Chopping it up. And we can then put it into the still. Just make sure it's in your hand. And there we go. And that's how you get yourself water. It will take a little while to refill, and you may need another canteen to actually take advantage of it. Now it will feel quicker when it's raining, but it does actually refill on its own as long as you've got palm fronds in it. It just takes a bit longer. The reason they switched it from tarp to cloth also was because tarp kind of run out, but later on you will be able to make and craft your own cloth, so it makes kind of sense. I'm sure there was one somewhere here. Lots of potatoes. Now it's best advised, don't eat these potatoes straight away. While you can grow them, which is what you're going to need to do when you get a crop plot, that's the best use because you're going to need it to make fuel. In a pinch you can eat them, but yeah, use them as a last resort and just keep them for your fuel later on. Anyway, I've got my other coconut. We're going to drop it on the floor and we're going to hit it with a knife to get coconut pieces or coconut itself. And there you can see we can now pick up the coconut and we can go ahead and drink it. You can see it fills up at least 1 bar normally, but you again only get usually 1 drink from it. Now be careful, you can't just live off coconuts, otherwise you'll get diarrhea and that will mean your water drains, and that will mean that eventually you might end up dying. So generally only have 1 piece of coconut or drink 1 piece of coconut water a day. There are other negative status effects that you got in the game as well. You can break your bones and obviously you can get poisoned. Also, don't eat any raw meat. Now, empty coconut shells don't really do much, except you can drop it again once you've drunk it. Get your little knife and hack away at it again. Now you've got coconut food. And this is going to fill you up a little bit as well, obviously. You can see my food's just about 2 squares. You can see it goes up by nearly a third of a square or half a square. You heard that little drop of sound of water? That means the the water still is filled. So let's hurry up and make sure we can actually get another one done. Now already we're running out of the fibrous plants. I need some to make some more fibres, and there really isn't many around. This is why it's so important that you go and gather as much as possible on the very first day before you sleep. Just lucked out and found 1 here. But I need to find enough to make 1 more lashing. Now rather unfairly, there wasn't a sign that I was walking on one of them poisonous starfish, but apparently it was hiding under the rocks, so I have now been poisoned. Getting poisoned on your first day honestly sometimes can mean having to restart because it takes so long to get over to another island and hopefully find enough pippy plants to make an antidote. If you don't have the plant on hand, you will die. And this game relies on a saved system, so you've got to manually save it. Otherwise you're going to have to redo all your progress since last time. So if you do get poisoned, it might be worth considering whether or not you want to just reload your game straight away. That might seem a bit cheaty, but I have lost count how many times I've started this game, got accidentally poisoned, and I'm struggled to get to another island, maybe not saved the game correctly, and I've wasted my time. So unless you've got some pippy plants to make the antidote, be very careful with this as well. It will pretty much just drain your health pool slowly over time, and yeah, it will mean that you'll eventually die. Now I'm going to hold and sleep, and we're pretty much nearly at the end of this first little tips guide for you starting out Stranded Deep. Now it's part of the PlayStation Plus this month. Just got to show you some recs and a few other little bits, and then you guys can hopefully give it a try and see how far or long you survive. And there's a yucca plant that I must have missed on that first day. Thank the Lord. So I can make my coconut flask again now. And we can choose it. And I can go and gather any of the water that's inside the water still. Remember to always fill it back up. You don't need a coconut canteen to drink from the still, but it's always worth having a full canteen with you in case you do go travelling and you need that little bit of extra water. Just aim in the right spot and you should be able to gather the water without it or fill it up, depending if it's in your hand or not. So my water's up, my food is just about okay. I probably will eat 1 ration just because I'm doing this as a little guide. You can see the rations really do fill you up. Now to regain your health, if for any reason you come into contact with a creature and you start losing your health, you need to have your food and water pretty high to have your health automatically regen. So it's definitely always worth making sure you've got a little bit of food on you. If it's not regenning, make sure you're fully fed. Now, doing all that stuff has meant that we can now start crafting other items. One of the first things you're going to need to do is you're going to need to leave this island now. And we're going to need to go and try and find ourselves a cure. You don't need to build bases straight away in the game. You can go ahead maybe and put one foundation down if you really would like, just so you can put some boxes. But the focus now is on getting ourselves a wood raft. But you can see you need quite a bit of cloth for it, so it may still take a while. Arc or Conan, you'll be pretty much used to it. It's very similar like that. You're also going to need a sail and a rudder. So that means you're going to need to rely on this bad boy to get you across to your first island. You can kind of tell if something's got some wreckages to explore, so it's definitely worth looking around and seeing what's going to aim. And if you did pay really close attention to your map when you was doing it, well, hopefully that's helped you out as well. So when you look around your island, you'll notice there's some bubbles on the top of the water. This means there is some sort of wreckage underneath. So always go and investigate this in the early stages. You might get really lucky and find lots of cloth, but yeah, most likely not. Now you can look inside this wooden crate and you can see I've got some engine parts, but this crate is actually pretty useful for storage, so pick up the whole crate instead and take it with you. So I can now drop my storage and you can see it holds 3 items. So we don't really need anything from this at the moment. You'll find stuff like this, that'll help make a gyrocopter, or it'll be for escaping towards the end of the game. You can also find machine parts to make a proper propeller for your raft eventually, but that's kind of mid-game. Now be careful if you decide to move islands and you're using these as transport, because they can actually come off your raft. You need to place them in a certain position or use some sort of other storage unit to get them safely across. Now, as long as you're in these early shores, you shouldn't come into too many problems or issues, although there can be some smaller sharks flying around. So not much else is around this wreckage. Be careful of these guys, they are pretty dangerous, the eels, and you can go ahead and try killing lots of these fish. The giant grouper for a while wasn't something you could interact with, but they changed it now that you can go ahead and harvest it. This is the most deadliest fish in the game, other than obviously a shark. Avoid these as they will poison you. I've found another wreckage though, so we're going to pick whatever's up in here. Got a good amount of stuff, so again just pick up the crate and take it with you. You can store the crates inside your inventory, you don't actually have to have them in your hand. I'm just double checking I've made sure I've found everything I can on this island. Find metal pieces like this, corrugated scrap, you'll use that later for sure, but for now we're going to just go and dump it back off at base. Remember, never pass up the opportunity to attack them fibrous leaves so they keep regrowing eventually. Okay, let's go, we're going to go over now. Now obviously make sure you bring your paddle with you. You do need to get the raft in fairly deep water for it to actually start going, and it is a bit of a pain sometimes. So don't be afraid to go ahead and chuck it. Although be careful with rafts, if you've got your sail equipped and the wind can blow it away from you. Just like that, and then jump on top and swim. You also need to have your paddle in your hand before you go ahead and operate it. And we are going to go ahead to that Cheaty Island, as I had a feeling I might get poisoned, and this is the only way to cure the poison, is to get hold of them pippy plants. You're going to need 2 pippy plants to make the cure. Now I'm not going to show that in this video, I have done lots of guides on this in the past, you'll see all of them hopefully in the comment section, so go and check out how to get the pippy antidote, and lots more tips for Stranded Deep. I covered this quite extensively when it launched on the PlayStation over a year ago now. So if you hear that horrible little sound, that is the sound of maybe a creature or a shark being nearby. So make sure you play with the music on, because you will need it. It will alert you that danger is nearby sometimes. And that is pretty much the cycle. Go to different islands, explore the wreckages, pick up all the natural resources you can, and then take it back to maybe your island. You can move bases obviously, or start little outposts everywhere, but it is going to take a while. You will be able to upgrade and find yourself loads of other resources, and you will be able to make things like a smelter so that you can make bricks, and clay is going to be used for part of the end game as well. But that's all for another video. I hope this has helped you enjoy the game. Now it's free on PlayStation Plus, and like I said, for the best in survival games news, make sure you subscribe to me. Until next time, Ratbags, laters.